Her laughter was the first thing I heard when I came back in. Not the music, not the chatter, just her laugh, sharp, a little too high-pitched, and echoing from the back hallway where no one was supposed to be anymore. I wasn't even supposed to be there. I'd already grabbed my coat, already said the fake goodbyes, already walked out the front doors of the venue and stood on the curb like an idiot, waiting for a ride I didn't call. I wasn't angry yet, just empty. She hadn't said more than 6 words to me the entire night, and half of them were, "Did you bring gum?" It was my work party, mine, and she treated it like an inconvenience, like a social chore she couldn't escape. Her eyes kept scanning the room like she was looking for someone more interesting, and her smile, that smile I used to think was only mine, never once landed on me. So yeah, I left. Or at least I wanted her to think I left. That's when the curiosity kicked in, the kind that makes your skin buzz. I circled around the building instead of going home. I came back through the service entrance, past the bins of half-eaten catering trays and some tired guy on his smoke break. I didn't even know what I was looking for, but I heard her, laughing. Not a polite chuckle, not the bored version she gives when she's ready to leave a conversation. No, this was her real laugh. The kind she used to do when we were lying in bed, watching dumb cartoons, and she'd snort and cover her mouth and say, "Don't look at me." And then I heard a man's voice, too low to make out the words, but close. Close enough to be leaning in. I don't remember moving. I just remember the hallway, dimly lit and silent except for the flicker of a motion sensor light above the emergency exit. They didn't see me. Or maybe they did and didn't care. He was facing her, smiling, and she was standing too close. Not touching, not yet, but leaning forward, that dress hanging just so off her shoulder like gravity had a personal vendetta. I didn't breathe. I didn't blink. I just stood there, like some forgotten ghost in a blazer that didn't fit right, watching my wife talk to someone like I didn't exist. She looked happier in those 10 seconds than she had in the last 3 months with me. That was the moment I realized, this isn't a story about a marriage anymore. It's a story about a performance. And I'm not even in the cast. I don't know how long I stood there. Maybe 30 seconds. Maybe 2 minutes. Time does this weird thing when you realize your world is shifting. It either slows down so you can feel every tiny crack forming in your chest, or it speeds up so you don't have time to brace for the collapse. For me, it did both. One part of my brain was screaming, "Move, say something, do something," and the other part was begging, "Please don't confirm it. Please let this be something else." But I couldn't walk away. He was laughing now too. I couldn't hear the words, just the tone, low and intimate, like they were swapping a secret. She tilted her head toward him, and her hand, landed on his forearm. Not even cautiously, like it belonged there, like it had been there before. And that's when I saw it. Not jealousy, not guilt, but comfort, familiarity, the kind that doesn't form in one night. I remember suddenly noticing that the hallway was freezing, that my knuckles were white from clutching my phone too tightly, that the screen was still lit up with the last message I sent her 35 minutes earlier. "You okay? Haven't seen you in a while." No response. And yet, here she was, laughing, glowing, alive. I stepped back, slowly, like I'd accidentally walked in on something private, something sacred that I was never meant to see. I backed out the way I came, pushed open the kitchen door, and felt the heat from the oven slam into me like a wall. One of the chefs looked at me like I didn't belong. He was right. I didn't. By the time I got back outside, my legs were shaking. Not from rage. Not even from heartbreak yet. Just from this hollow, rising panic. The kind you get when you realize the person you love might have a whole second life that you never signed up for. I didn't go home. I sat in my car, parked 2 blocks away, engine off, watching condensation drip down the windshield. My thoughts weren't even coherent. They were images, her laugh, her hand, the tilt of her head, the way she never looked that alive when she was with me anymore. And then, for some reason, I checked her location. We don't spy on each other. Never had a reason to. But she shares it with me. One of those couple things we set up years ago for safety or convenience or whatever. The dot was moving. She'd left the building. I watched as her little blue circle drifted away from the venue. Not toward our house. Not toward her car. And then it stopped. At a hotel. Not far. Not close either. I stared at the screen for a full minute, like maybe it would correct itself. Like maybe it was a GPS glitch. Like maybe she'd suddenly teleport to a gas station or a late-night cafe, or anywhere else that didn't come with beds and blackout curtains. But she didn't move, and neither did I, because in that moment, the truth wasn't even the worst part. The worst part was that some piece of me still wanted to believe she was just tired. That maybe she booked the room to avoid the drive. That maybe she'd call me soon, apologize for being distant, blame the wine, the noise, the stress. That maybe I was still someone she loved. But she never called. Not that night. Not the next morning. And I never told her I saw. At least not yet. The next morning was too bright. The kind of cold sunlight that pours into your living room and exposes every speck of dust you ignored for months. I was still on the couch when she came home, blanket half on the floor, my shirt wrinkled, breath stale from not brushing my teeth. I hadn't slept. Not really. I closed my eyes a few times, but my brain never shut off. It just kept playing loops. Her laughing in that hallway, her hand on his arm, the little blued that stopped moving at 1:42 a.m. And then, just after 9 o'clock, the front door opened. I didn't move. I just sat there, half covered in the same position I'd been in since she disappeared. She walked in quietly, holding her heels in one hand and her purse in the other like a teenager sneaking in after curfew. Her makeup was smudged, and she was wearing that beige trench coat she only pulls out when she wants to look effortlessly hot. I expected her to jump, to freeze, maybe even flinch when she saw me sitting there. But she didn't. She gave me a tight little smile, like we'd just crossed paths in the kitchen, not like she'd ghosted me at my own work party and spent the night God knows where, and said, "You're up early." That's it. You're up early. Not, "Sorry I disappeared." Not, "Are you okay?" Not even, "Hey, how was the party?" I could feel this weird, slow boil happening behind my face. My jaw clenched on its own. My fingers twitched on the armrest. I wanted to scream, "Where the hell were you?" But the words got caught somewhere between my chest and my teeth. So instead, I nodded. Couldn't sleep. She made a soft sound, not quite sympathy, more like mild boredom, and drifted past me toward the bedroom. I listened to the sound of her heels dropping on the carpet, the closet door sliding open, the hangers clinking as she casually picked out fresh clothes. And just like that, it was like nothing happened. She didn't explain why she left. Didn't ask why I hadn't come to bed. She just acted like the night had vanished into thin air, like we were living in separate stories that barely overlapped anymore. At some point, she poked her head out of the bedroom and said, "I'm gonna shower and then maybe grab brunch with Mira. You want anything?" That's when I finally said something. "Where did you go last night?" Her eyes froze for a split second, too short for most people to notice, but I saw it. That flicker of surprise, maybe even panic. But it disappeared fast. She tilted her head and said, "What do you mean?" "I mean after the party. You left." She rolled her eyes. "I told you I wasn't feeling well. Roman gave me a ride." Roman. I didn't flinch. I didn't scream. I just repeated it in my head like a mantra. Roman gave me a ride. Roman gave me a ride. Roman gave me a ride. No mention of the hotel. No explanation for the hours in between. Just a first name and a shrug, like that was enough. I wanted to call her out. I wanted to say, "I saw you. I saw everything." But I didn't. I just said, "You could have texted." Her mouth tightened a little. My phone died. That lie felt so lazy it almost offended me. Like I wasn't even worth a convincing cover story. She disappeared back into the bedroom, and the sound of the shower running filled the apartment. I sat there, gripping my knees, staring at the floor like it might give me answers. That sick feeling returned. The one that makes your ribs feel too small for your heart. She was lying, and I knew it. But the question was, why wasn't I doing anything about it? For the next 2 days, I floated through my life like a man underwater, everything muffled, slowed, dull around the edges. Selena acted normal, like aggressively normal. She hummed when she cooked pasta on Sunday night. She asked if I wanted to watch that awful reality show she always made fun of. She even sent me a meme at work with a crying cat and a dumb caption, "Me waiting for you to come home." I stared at it for 10 minutes, trying to figure out what the hell was going on. Was she mocking me? Was this guilt? Was it bait? It's hard to explain what it does to you when your brain splits in two. One part tells you, this is your wife. She loves you. You're overreacting. The other part replays every tiny detail on a loop. Her flushed cheeks, her silence at the party, her phone dying, the GPS that stopped moving until 3:12 a.m. and then vanished. I couldn't concentrate. Couldn't eat. I Googled things like how to tell if your partner is lying, and body language of cheating, and can you recover from infidelity if they won't admit it? I started reading Reddit posts that sounded way too familiar. I wasn't looking for advice. I was looking for someone to confirm that I wasn't losing my mind. But the worst part? I didn't even want to catch her. I just wanted to stop feeling crazy. I wanted one moment, one word, one look from her that would make it all go away. Something real I could hold on to. Instead, I found the opposite. It happened on Monday night. I couldn't sleep again, so I went into the living room and opened her laptop. Not because I'm that guy, not because I wanted to snoop. I just wanted to distract myself. But when the screen came on, her browser was already open. Gmail, a tab she must have forgotten to close. I wasn't going to click it. I really wasn't. But the subject line of one email stopped me cold. Friday night smirking face. No name. Just that. My stomach dropped. My hands got cold. I clicked. The message was short. 2 lines. Still thinking about that hallway. Can't believe you made me wait, that long grinning face with sweat. Let me know when he's out again. I'm not done with you. No name. No sign-off. No details. But it didn't matter. I didn't need them. The date was Saturday morning, just hours after she got home. I sat there, reading it over and over, like it might morph into something else if I stared long enough. I checked the sender, a Gmail address I didn't recognize. No profile photo, just a string of letters and numbers like someone made it in a hurry. I wanted to throw the laptop, or cry, or both, but I didn't do anything. I closed the tab, closed the laptop, sat in the dark, and for the first time in our 6-year marriage, I felt like a stranger in my own home. Not because of what she did, but because of who I became when I started hiding what I knew. I still hadn't confronted her. Not really. I told myself I needed more proof. But deep down, I knew the truth. I wasn't looking for evidence anymore. I was looking for an excuse to stay. The truth is, I didn't want to be the guy who secretly reads his wife's emails. I wanted to believe in us, the way we used to be, the way I kept telling myself she still wanted to be. But after that email, after that night, the walls were closing in. The silence between us felt like a third person in the room, suffocating and impossible to ignore. Monday night turned into Tuesday morning, and I knew I couldn't keep pretending. I had to know everything. Not just the tiny glimpses, the hints, the cracked pieces. I needed the whole picture. Because living in half-truths was breaking me. So I did the one thing I told myself I never would. I followed the trail. Not because I'm a detective, or because I wanted revenge, but because I needed to hear her say the truth, or see it with my own eyes. I was desperate for proof that might hurt less than uncertainty. I started with the obvious, her phone. She always kept it locked. But last week, she'd left it unlocked on the kitchen counter, for 1 second, while answering the door. It was enough. I memorized the pattern, and that night, when she showered, I unlocked it. The messages were worse than I thought. More than one contact, multiple conversations, late at night, full of emojis and flirtations I hadn't seen in years. There were plans, jokes, photos, the kind of digital breadcrumb trail you wish you never found. But it wasn't just the texts. It was the way she talked about me, or rather, how little she mentioned me at all. When she did, it was dismissive or defensive. I saw the moments where she'd tried to justify herself to someone, as if explaining why she couldn't be the wife I thought I married. I was shaking as I scrolled, the room spinning. Every message stabbed at me, but the worst part was a simple photo. Her and that guy, Roman, at some late-night bar, laughing close, their faces lit by neon lights and blurred alcohol-fueled smiles. I closed the phone and leaned back against the wall, breath catching in my throat. I wanted to scream, to break something, to yell why, but all I could hear was the pounding in my chest and the cruel, cold silence of the apartment. The next day, I couldn't look her in the eyes. The weight of what I'd found crushed me. I thought maybe if I acted normal, if I smiled, if I didn't bring it up, she'd come clean herself. Or maybe it would all go away. But it didn't. She was colder, more distant, like she was waiting for something, or someone. One night, I followed her after dinner. Not far, just a few blocks. She walked into a little cafe, then sat with Roman. They held hands under the table, their heads bent close, laughing, touching. I wanted to run away, to turn back and pretend I never saw anything. But I stood there, frozen, watching the life I thought I had slipped through my fingers like smoke. When she left, I didn't confront her. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just realized something terrifying. I was trapped. Not by her, not by the betrayal, but by the part of me that still loved her. The days that followed were a slow, brutal unraveling. I kept replaying that night, watching her with Roman in that dim cafe, the way their hands intertwined like they belonged to each other, the way she laughed without a care, without me. And yet, despite all that, I couldn't bring myself to hate her. I couldn't even hate myself for letting this happen. I started questioning everything. Every smile she ever gave me, every late-night conversation we had, every promise I thought was real. Was it all just a lie? Or had I just been too blind to see the cracks until now? I found myself searching for excuses, reasons, anything that could explain why the woman I loved was slipping away from me without so much as a warning. I caught myself going over the smallest details. How she'd come home late and smell different. How she was always on her phone, secretive and tense, like she was carrying a weight too heavy for me to lift. The worst part was the silence. Not the comfortable silence we used to share after a long day, but the cold, empty silence that screamed of things left unsaid. One night, I stayed up until she came home. I watched her from the darkened doorway as she tried to act normal, dropping her keys on the table, whispering a tired, "I'm home." But I saw the exhaustion in her eyes, the way her shoulders sagged under some invisible burden. I wanted to reach out, to ask her everything, but the words caught in my throat. I was terrified of the answers. Instead, I did something worse. I asked her if she was happy. Her eyes flickered with surprise, then hardened with something I couldn't place. "I'm fine," she said quickly, almost too quickly. Then she turned away, retreating to the sanctuary of our bedroom. That night, I lay awake wondering how someone could be fine when everything was falling apart. I was trapped in a web of my own making, caught between hope and despair, love and betrayal. Every time I thought about leaving, a voice inside whispered that maybe I could fix this, that maybe there was still a way back. But every time I looked at her, every time I heard her laugh with someone else, that hope died a little more. I started watching her more closely, trying to catch any sign of remorse or regret. But all I found was distance, coldness, and secrets. And the truth I dreaded, that the woman who once promised forever might already have moved on. And in that realization, I found a terrifying clarity. Sometimes love doesn't save you. Sometimes love is what traps you. By now, the apartment felt less like a home and more like a stage where I was performing a role I no longer understood. I'd wake up every morning waiting for something to happen, a confrontation, a confession, a scream, anything. But the silence was relentless, like a slow poison seeping into everything we were supposed to share. Every smile she gave me was a mask, every word carefully measured, every glance avoiding mine. I tried to talk to her once more, really talk, not just the shallow exchanges that had become our norm. I sat her down, heart pounding, voice trembling with desperation. I said everything I'd bottled up inside. How the party made me feel invisible, how the nights of silence broke me, how seeing her with him shattered something inside me. But she just listened, eyes cold and distant, and then said, "Grant, you're making a mountain out of a molehill. You don't trust me." That cut deeper than any betrayal. Because the truth was, I didn't trust her anymore. And telling her that felt like admitting defeat. I realized that I wasn't just fighting for our marriage. I was fighting for my own sanity. I started obsessing over every little thing. The way her phone buzzed at odd hours. The mysterious texts I caught glimpses of. The subtle changes in her routine. Sudden late nights, unexplained absences, whispered phone calls in rooms where I wasn't allowed. It was like watching a movie where you already know the ending but can't look away. One night, I couldn't take it anymore. I followed her again, this time farther. She met Roman in a tiny bar on the edge of town. A place I'd never heard of, hidden behind flickering neon signs and peeling paint. I watched them from across the street, their hands entwined, heads close, the kind of intimacy that mocks the years I thought we'd built together. My heart shattered in slow motion. I wanted to scream, to run, to disappear. But all I could do was stand there, powerless, broken, and utterly alone. That night, I came home and packed a bag. Not because I was ready to leave, not yet, but because I didn't know how to stay. How to be the man she once loved when all I felt was like a ghost haunting my own life. As I closed the suitcase, I looked around the empty apartment, the quiet testament to everything we lost. I didn't know if I'd have the courage to walk out the door or the strength to stay and fight. But I knew one thing for sure. I couldn't live like this anymore. After that night, everything changed. I realized that staying trapped in the silence, in the lies, wasn't protecting me. It was destroying me. So I made a decision. Not just to confront Selena, but to confront myself, my fears, my doubts. I had to reclaim my life, no matter what that meant. The next morning, I sat her down one last time. No accusations, no anger, just honesty, raw and bare. I told her how lost I felt, how much the distance hurt, and how I couldn't keep living in a shadow of what we used to be. For the first time, I spoke not just for us, but for me. To my surprise, she listened. Really listened. The walls she built started to crack. And instead of shutting down, she opened up about her own struggles, her loneliness, the mistakes she made, and the pain she didn't know how to say out loud. We didn't have all the answers that day, but we found something more important, a bridge to start rebuilding. It wasn't perfect, and it wouldn't be easy, but it was honest. I also realized something else, that my self-worth didn't depend on her choices or on what happened between us. It depended on how I chose to move forward. And so I started therapy, rediscovered old passions I'd buried under years of doubt, and reconnected with friends who reminded me who I was beyond the walls of that apartment. Slowly, piece by piece, I found myself again. Stronger, clearer, and ready to face whatever came next, with or without her. Because sometimes, the hardest betrayal leads you to the most powerful kind of freedom, the freedom to love yourself first. If you ever find yourself in a dark place, remember this: you're not alone. And the story doesn't end with the pain. It ends with the courage to start over.